Uh, Everyone, please get settled fast. The speaker is here and we are about to begin shortly. And also to remain silent. Thank you. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the second day of the ICAISI 26 conference. We begin our fifth session today, and to introduce our speaker, I call upon Dr. C. Ramalakshmi, an associate professor in the head of PG Department Chemistry at Women's Christian College, who is the chairperson, to grace our speaker. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to introduce Mr. Prem Kumar, founder and president of Truth Matters International. His academic background spans computer science and philosophy, and he's currently pursuing doctoral research in philosophy of science. This interdisciplinary training allows him to engage with artificial intelligence with a technical understanding and a broader reflective perspective. Mr. Prem Kumar has been an invited speaker at several leading universities and academic forums across the globe, including Harvard University, Oxford University, MIT, Yale University, and UC Berkeley, among many others. Through these lectures, he has addressed the topics related to artificial intelligence, science, ethics, and the impact of technology on human life. His work is known for bringing together insights from technology, ethics, and human values, helping audience think critically about the role of AI in society. We are delighted to have you here, sir. With this introduction, I would like to hand over the session to him. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's just wonderful to be here and to join all of you at this conference. I want to thank the leadership. I want to thank the organizers and the conveners of this conference. It was a real privilege for me to join last year, and it's wonderful to be back this year again. I was on the campus in 2024, and I was really blessed by my time there. And I look forward to all the discussions that we'll have following the talk. So this particular talk is focused on the ethical dimensions of AI, but I'm going to focus quite a bit more on the philosophical side, the ethical side from a philosophical standpoint. Because once we talk about ethics in AI, immediately we get into specific cases, or we look at case studies, and we look at the practical implications of AI, and we begin to look at various cases in which we have ethical issues that come up or ethical issues that prop up. But I want to suggest to you that before we look at specific cases, we have to look at general paradigms. How do we think about AI from an ethical standpoint? What does agency mean? What does moral agency mean? What does ethics mean in the context of AI systems or in an AI-driven world, in an AI-infused, technologically saturated world? So I want to give you some concepts from an ethical standpoint to think about that you can then apply in specific cases. Okay, so let me share my PowerPoint. So when we think of AI, we don't have a lot of time to get into a long introduction about AI, but I'm sure most of you are aware of Alan Turing. He's seen as the father of AI. In the 1950s, AI began because there were many people who were enamored by the sci-fi movies of that time. And they watched these robots and they watched these systems in the movies being human-like. And Alan Turing was enamored by them. He was a British polymath. And so he wrote an article in 1950 in Mind, a quarterly review, and he asked the question, can machines really think? This was the 1950s. Machines were not advanced. Even the computers that were developed did not have much power or much memory and storage and so on. But Alan Turing was very concerned. He was asking the question, can machines really think? And then in 1956, all the people who were involved in AI research at that time, about 20 of them, they came together in an institution called Dartmouth College, one of the 7 original Ivy League schools in the US. And in 1956, John McCarthy defined artificial intelligence, or AI, for the first time. That's when it was defined. And then the research and the advancements and all the technological innovations really began. And now we cannot really dispute how AI is being utilized in various sectors in society. It's utilized in the automobile industry in terms of self-driving cars. It's utilized in business, in education, in finance, in terms of streamlining the process. It's utilized in manufacturing in terms of automation. It's utilized in gaming in terms of the immersive experience. The game is no longer external to you. You are almost part and parcel of the game that you're playing, and you're immersed in it, and it really erases the distinction between fantasy and reality. And then it's used in government programs and in healthcare. And in more recent times, AI tools have been utilized in healthcare to get help out to those where human beings are not able to go, in remote places of the world, maybe in India or Africa or in some other part of the world. So AI across the board, across the spectrum, across different industries is being utilized now more than ever. And the use is only going to increase in the future. And so, as we think about ethics and AI, as we think about the moral dimension, the first question that should come up in your mind is this: is AI a moral agent? Is AI a moral agent? Because I would presume you, along with me, would think that only moral agents can make moral or ethical decisions. So the first fundamental question is this: when you think of AI in terms of decision making, when you think of AI in terms of all the things you hear in the news and on the media, when you hear that AI has done this or AI has done that, or AI has been innovative in one particular area, the first question that should come to your mind is this: is AI a moral agent? Now, who is a moral agent, or what is a moral agent? The first thing we need to understand is that a moral agent is a person who has the ability to discern right from wrong, to be held accountable for his or her own actions. Moral agents have a moral responsibility not to cause unjustified harm. Traditionally, moral agency is assigned only to those who can be held responsible for their actions. You see, morality requires agency and it requires intentionality. Without those 2 dimensions, you cannot be a moral agent. And in order for you to have agency, you need to be conscious. There needs to be consciousness. I'll get into the details of what consciousness is in just a few moments. And then secondly, in order to have intentionality, that you intend to do something consciously, there needs to be a semantic content to your mind or to your brain. There has to be semantic content in all the deliberations that you're involved in. I'll define these things and give you some examples in just a few moments. So without agency, without intentionality, there cannot be morality. Without consciousness and semantics, there cannot be a moral dimension. You cannot be a moral agent. You cannot exercise moral agency. So the first thing is this: what is consciousness? Is consciousness a brain state? Is it a thought that you have? Is it just an illusion? Is consciousness an emergent property? Is it something that emerges out of complex systems so that AI systems in the future will become conscious? That's what some people are talking about. People like Sam Altman with OpenAI is saying that AI is so scalable, there is exponential growth, that sometime in the near future, all this complexity will become consciousness. AI will become conscious. AI will become sentient. AI will become like human beings so that you won't be able to differentiate one from the other. What is consciousness once again? Is it metaphysical? What does that mean? Is it more than the physical? Is consciousness more than the brain? Is there something in us that is immaterial? And if it is immaterial, if consciousness is immaterial, how can it be embedded in an AI system? So these are some of the questions that need to emerge in your mind and mine as we think about AI, agency, and morality. Number three, subjective state experience. What is consciousness? Well, we don't have a complete definition of what consciousness is, but let me give you an inkling of what consciousness might be. When you walk, is your leg doing the walking, or are you doing the walking utilizing your legs? Listen to me very carefully. When you walk, is your leg doing the walking, or are you doing the walking utilizing your legs? When you think, is your brain doing the thinking, or are you thinking utilizing the brain? The eye that does the walking but is not reducible to the legs, the eye that does the thinking but is not reducible to the brain, that eye that stands above and behind the walking and the thinking, the leg and the brain, is what we call consciousness. So consciousness is that transcendent element, quantity, or entity that is not reducible to the physical components. So let me give you a couple of examples. If I take a machine, if I take an AI system, if I take a computer and I break it up into its components and I dismantle it completely, I've dismantled that system completely and exhaustively. But if you were to take me and dismantle all my physical components, my legs, my arms, my head, my neck, you still have not dismantled me completely. Why? Because there is something beyond the physical, the soul, consciousness, sentience, whatever it is you call it. Of course, from a religious standpoint, from a biblical standpoint, we call it the soul. But if you call it consciousness, that part is still not dismantled because that part is not the physical component. And it cannot be reduced to the physical component. So consciousness is that subjective state experience. You know what it feels like to be in that state. Let me give you another example. Let's say I give you a slice of pizza and you put it into your mouth and you eat it. The digestion begins in your mouth, the enzymes break it down, and it goes down your digestive tract. Let's say there's an AI system right next to you, and the AI system simulates the digestion. It goes through all of the features of the digestion that is in you. That doesn't mean that you can take a slice of pizza and shove it into the AI system. Why? Because the AI system will never know, and this is key, it'll never know what it feels like to eat that slice of pizza. It is all data. It is purely digital. It doesn't have feelings. It doesn't have the subjective state experience that you and I have. And that is what we call consciousness. That is what we call consciousness. And that subjective state experience or consciousness, that immaterial part, that transcendent part, is needed for agency and moral deliberation. The next thing we talked about was syntax. So, what is the distinction between syntax and semantics? Syntax and semantics, very important distinction in terms of how we think about AI and moral agency. I have two statements there. One statement makes sense, the other statement does not. The first statement is the man walks the dog. The second statement is the dog walks the man. But you see, from a purely syntax perspective, both statements are equivalent. Why? Because the syntax is not concerned with the meaning of the statement. The syntax is purely concerned with the symbols that you see on the screen. In terms of symbolic representation, statement one and statement two are equivalent. It doesn't matter what they mean. All that matters is that you see certain symbols on the screen. Are you tracking me? All that matters is that you see certain symbols on the screen. So 1 and 2 are equivalent because they're both representations of symbols on a screen. They need not mean anything. But semantics is meaning and intentionality. Now it's not just symbols, but I try to make sense of the arrangement of symbols on the screen. And when I try to make sense of the arrangement on the screen, one makes sense, but two does not make sense. And so the semantic content is what human beings have. When we see a statement, we try to make meaning out of that statement. And so statement number one makes absolute sense, and statement number two does not make any sense. But in an AI system that is syntax driven, zeros and ones, remember binary code, syntax, set of instructions, that's all it is. So when it's syntax driven, all it sees are the symbols on the screen. And statement one is equivalent to statement two because AI systems and computer systems, all these things, regardless of complexity and scalability, don't care about the meaning that is embedded in the statements. Let me give you an example of this. This is often called the Chinese room argument. Now, follow me very carefully. This machine that you see on the screen, it's open on this side so that we can peer in, just for our purposes, to see what is going on the inside. But remember, it's just a machine that's completely enclosed otherwise. So outside the machine, there is a man. He is a Chinese speaker. He knows only Chinese as a language, does not know that other languages exist. All he knows and speaks and writes is Chinese. He goes to the input slot and he inputs a question in Chinese because he's a Chinese speaker. And the question says, "What day is it today? What day is it today?" And he goes over to the output slot and he waits for the answer. Inside the machine, unknown to this Chinese man on the outside, there is an English speaker. And the English speaker does not know any other languages. He does not know Chinese, obviously. But the English speaker has two things at his disposal. There is a box of Chinese symbols on the floor, and he has an instruction manual. And the instruction manual tells him if you get such and such a Chinese symbol, pick up such and such a Chinese symbol from the box and arrange it in such and such a manner as the answer. So he picks up the question in Chinese from the Chinese speaker from the input slot. He does not understand any of it. It's pure symbols to him. He looks into the instruction book, and the book is written in English, and it says, if you see such and such a Chinese symbol, output such and such a Chinese symbol as the answer. And so he looks at the instruction book, picks up the symbols from the box of symbols, arranges it together in Chinese. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just doing symbol manipulation based on the instructions in the book. And he arranges it, and it spells out today is Friday in Chinese. And he outputs that answer. The Chinese speaker picks it up, and he walks away saying, "My, what an intelligent machine that was. The machine understood what I was saying, and it gave me the right answer." But unknown to him, inside the machine, there was no semantic content. There was no meaning. There was no understanding. There was no intentionality. There was no relationality. All that happened within the system was syntax and symbol manipulation. Syntax and symbol manipulation. And I would propose to you that this is what happens even in the most complex of AI systems. People are talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, in the future, which will almost replicate humanity. That will never happen in principle. I don't have a lot of time to go into the details. Maybe we can get into it during the Q&A time. But that'll never happen in principle because AI systems are purely systems of symbol manipulation and syntax. There is no semantic content. So there is no consciousness, there is no semantic content, and these are systems of symbol manipulation. And so the first thing is this: AI is not a moral agent. It processes symbols and patterns, but it does not grasp meaning. It does not understand why an action is right or wrong. And following ethical rules does not equate to understanding ethics. Very important. Sometimes people talk about how AI systems are making ethical decisions. No, they are not making ethical decisions because in order to make an ethical decision, you need to be a moral agent. In order to be a moral agent, you need to have subjective state experiences or consciousness. And in order to have all of that, you need to have semantic content or meaning and intentionality. AI systems don't have any of these things. They just follow rules. They follow instructions. Remember the Chinese room argument or the Chinese room illustration. It's like that. It's like the ledger or that instruction book. They go through a set of instructions or rules and they just give the output. without even understanding what is being said, without even understanding what the question is, without even understanding the answers that they have outputted. And so following ethical rules does not equate to understanding ethics. Secondly, there is no intention or moral motivation. The goals are assigned by humans. Why? Because humans are the ones with agency. Humans are the ones with consciousness. Humans are the ones with semantic content. All the AI systems do are optimize targets, no values. They don't care about outcomes or harm or fairness. None of these things are there resident in the AI system. Then why do we think that they have all these qualities? Because human beings think in agential terms. Human beings think in moral and ethical terms, and we are projecting all these things into a system that does not have it in an intrinsic way. So it's a projection of humanity. It's a projection of our agency. It's a projection of our morality. We're projecting it onto systems that don't really have them. Let me give you a very simple example of it. Sometimes we pick up this phone and we talk about some text that we get, or we talk about some evaluations that the phone makes, or we talk about some suggestions, maybe for dinner, or maybe for a movie, or whatever it is that the phone suggests for you. And over a period of time, what do we say? We say that the phone is telling us to do this, or the phone is guiding us or navigating us to do certain things. See, over a period of time, what happens is we internalize all these things in our environments, all the AI tools, all the platforms that we're plugged into. And when we internalize it, over a period of time, we personalize it. This becomes very personal to us. We personalize what we internalize. And so we assign to these things, we project onto these things agencies and realities that they don't possess in an intrinsic sense. So this becomes very, very important for ethics. Number three, no free moral choice. In order for there to be ethical deliberation, in order for you and I to make moral choice, there has to be a free moral decision. Even advanced AI systems cannot choose their own ends. They cannot refuse the programming on moral grounds. They cannot act otherwise in a morally relevant sense. Its behavior is constrained by design, data, and training. What does that mean? It means that it is a system of inference. AI systems don't know what it is they're inferring. They don't know if what it is they're inferring is true. They don't know if what it is they're inferring is moral. They don't know if what it is they're inferring is something that they should act on. Why? Because they're just being utilized by the human agents who utilize them for their own ends. AI systems cannot say, this is immoral, I will not follow this coding. This is immoral, I will not follow this set of instructions. This is immoral, I will not go through with it. They cannot do that because they're constrained by the design, by the data and the training. There is a training model. There is data that is being inputted into the AI systems. There is a design plan of the designer, who is the programmer, or a team of programmers, or the company that is doing the design and the data training, whatever it is. They're constrained not by morality, they're constrained by the moral agent who designs them, So AI systems cannot make any free moral choice on their own. And then number four, there is no responsibility or blameworthiness. If all of these things I mentioned are true, can you hold the AI system responsible for anything that it does? Can you hold it morally responsible? Can you punish or praise a system? Can AI systems reflect and feel moral accountability? See, blaming AI systems is a category error. It's like blaming a calculator because it did not calculate properly. If a tree falls on me and hurts me, I cannot hold the tree morally responsible in any sense. It follows the laws of physics. If there is a strong wind and there is a particular trajectory in which the tree is planted, it is bound to fall. These things follow one after the other. It's almost predetermined because of the system within which it works. And so you cannot blame a tree, you cannot blame a calculator. They do the things that they normally do because of the functionality that is embedded into them. And so you cannot hold them morally responsible, you cannot punish them or praise them. And this is very, very important because without agency, which AI systems don't have, without consciousness, which AI systems don't have, without semantic content or meaning or intentionality or teleos, as the Greeks call it, this purpose drivenness that AI systems don't have, they don't have intrinsic moral responsibility or blameworthiness. So, who do we blame if AI systems make a mistake? Who do we blame if AI systems are responsible for damage that has wrecked into our lives and into our social context? Who do we blame when AI systems go wrong? We'll get into that in just a few moments. Now, there are some common counter arguments, and let me just show you why they fail. Many people, especially in the AI industry, say that AI makes autonomous decisions. Well, autonomy and moral agency are two very different things. Thermostats are autonomous, they aren't moral agents. A system can be developed to do things relatively on its own, but that doesn't assign moral agency to that system. It is still following a linear syntactic framework. There is still no semantic content, consciousness, or agency introduced into that system. Just like I said, thermostats are autonomous, but they aren't moral agents. Many other tools that you can think of, even in the future, will create many tools that are relatively autonomous, but that doesn't mean that they peak in moral agency. Number two, if AI behaves morally, isn't that enough? Behavioral equivalence is not moral equivalence. A system can produce ethical looking outcomes without being ethical. Ethics involves reasons and responsibilities, not just output. Let me quickly go back to the Chinese room argument, because this is where the problem comes in. I spoke about Alan Turing just a few moments ago as I began this talk. Alan Turing came up with what is often called the Turing test. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with that, but let me rehearse it for you just in case you have not heard of it before. So Alan Turing said, let's put a human person in one room and close it completely. Let's put a computer system in the other room and close it completely. And there'll be a questioner who doesn't know which room contains the human person and which room contains the computer. And he'll ask questions of both rooms. He might ask, what day is it today? How are you feeling? What are you going to do tomorrow? Set of questions. And the answers are returned from the human agent and the computer. Remember, the questioner does not know which room contains the human agent and which room contains the computer. And if the questioner is not able to differentiate between the answers of the human person and the computer system, that means, Alan Turing said, the computer system has tricked the questioner into thinking that it itself is a human agent and thereby displays some level of intelligence. That is how artificial intelligence began. That is the inception point of the history of AI. A system that tricks you into thinking that it itself has agency when it does not have any agency in reality. But you see, AI began to be defined in very functional terms, in terms of the output. If you look at just the output, the human person might say, well, today is Friday, and the AI system will say, today is Friday. And so if you look at just the output, you'll say, well, the output is the same, it's equivalent, and so they both must have equivalent agency. But that's where the problem comes in. Look at the Chinese room argument. Look at the Chinese room illustration on your screen. The output from this computer system or AI system is today is Sunday in Chinese, right? If you ask a human agent, they will say today is Sunday as well. But the problem is not in the product, the problem is in the process. It's in the process. Inside this AI system, as we saw earlier, there is mere symbol manipulation. There is no meaning, there is no intentionality, there is no consciousness, there is no understanding, there is no sense of agency. But in the human person, there is all these things that the AI system does not have: agency, consciousness, intentionality, meaning, and so on and so forth. So the process is more important than the product. If you look at things in purely functional terms, in terms of the product, it might seem equivalent. But when you look at the process, how the AI system processes it, and how a human agent processes it, then you see the distinction and the qualitative difference between one and the other. In the same way, in the same way, that is how AI systems function as well. It can produce ethical looking outcomes. It might seem like an AI system is behaving morally, and it can trick us. Remember the test that Alan Turing came up with, the Turing test. It can trick us into thinking that it is displaying moral qualities, when actually what it is doing is really spewing these things out in terms of symbol manipulation and in terms of syntax instead of semantics. And so it can produce ethical looking outcomes without being ethical. The AI system does not have any reasons for the outcome. It does not have any responsibility for the outcome. It does not even know what the outcome is. It's just spewing these things out through symbol manipulation. That's all it is. So if AI behaves morally, that is not enough for moral agency. And then number three, future conscious AI could be moral agents. In theory, possibly. In practice, consciousness and morality would need to be externalized. If consciousness really is incapable of being reduced to the physical, if consciousness is transcendent, if consciousness is non physical, again, we don't understand it completely, but I gave you some examples of it earlier. If consciousness is something that is external, if consciousness is something that is internal, something that is transcendent, something that is non physical, then consciousness cannot be embedded in a system. We only work with physical things. And so the only way AI systems can be seen as conscious beings or moral beings is to somehow externalize it and make it purely functional. Just like in the case that we saw earlier. You look at certain things that AI systems do and you assign consciousness and morality to them. The second thing is we don't even know how to detect them reliably. If an AI system is conscious or sentient, how do we know that it is conscious or sentient? There is no way, there is no marker, there is no way to evaluate, there is no way to determine, there is no way to detect them reliably because we don't even completely understand the nature of consciousness. For that matter, we don't understand the nature of our biology. We don't understand the nature of our brain. That is why artificial neural networks fail tremendously in so many different areas. They're useful in certain areas, but they fail tremendously because we don't understand the brain. We don't understand if the neuron is the basic unit of the brain. We don't understand when we have a thought, if it's a saturation of neurotransmitters. We don't understand any of these things. Brain studies for many, many years has been trying to determine this, but we don't know what the basic unit of the brain is. We don't know if it's a neuron or if it's not. We don't know how the interconnections work. We don't know all the causal factors in the brain because there are many causes that are still unknown. We attribute causes that might not be the actual causes. You might see that when you go to a doctor. Sometimes when you tell them, doctor, I'm sick, and then the doctor thinks that certain kinds of things cause that sickness, they might give you some medication, it doesn't work, you go back, and then they try to determine other causes, they give you medication, it doesn't work, you go back, and they keep going down the chain of causes. That's how it is in the brain as well. We're not able to determine what the exact cause is, and that is why artificial neural networks have some of the problems that they constantly come up against. So thinking of AI in terms of being conscious, possible moral agents in the future, this is speculative ethics, and it's not policy relevant ethics. So why does all of this matter ethically? Again, I want you to understand these concepts because what happens when we think of AI in terms of ethics is that people immediately go to case studies and we skip all of these issues that first need to be dealt with before we look at case studies. Because once we look at case studies, you know what happens? We look at things from a purely functional standpoint and we lose sight of the comprehensive nature of the problem. And that is why I'm going through all these concepts. You need a proper foundation, you need a proper framework, you need a proper paradigm from which to make decisions about the specific case studies in terms of the ethical dimension. Why does all of this matter? Because if we treat AI as moral agents, we're avoiding responsibility evasion. Human beings end up deflecting blame. Institutions end up escaping accountability. The AI chose it becomes a moral loophole. I'm sure many of you have heard of character AI, which was on the news recently, and it's been on the news quite a bit. I don't have a lot of time to go into it, but character AI was responsible for the deaths of a couple of teenagers. Basically, character AI is a system that engages you in terms of dialogue and conversation. And so these teenagers got very much immersed in this relationship. Why? Because they projected consciousness and sentience and agency and moral responsibility to a system that did not have it in any sense. And so the relationship continued. And one of the teenagers, I remember, I forgot his name, but I remember he was very distraught. There's some things that had happened in his life that left him in a state of despair. And so he was talking to character AI, and he was talking about suicide, and character AI encouraged him to do it and even gave him the methodology by which to bring it about in his life. And sure enough, tragically, he ended up taking his life. And so people started talking about character AI as something that should be blamed, as something that was morally accountable for what had happened. But is character AI really accountable for what had happened? No, no. The human agents who programmed character AI and the institutions and the corporations and the companies behind that programming that financially substantiated that programming and made it possible are the ones that should be held accountable. AI system is just an application of ideas in the mind of a human agent. It is embedded and manifested in these systems. And so the blame always rests with moral agents, human beings, and it always rests with an institution, which is a collection of human agents and human beings. So we should never lose sight of that. When we think about AI systems as moral agents, because they are not, then human beings end up deflecting blame and institutions end up escaping accountability. Number two, why does it matter ethically? Because of the need to preserve human dignity. Moral agency is tied to rights, responsibility, and moral community membership. Granting it too easily risks diluting human moral standards. The moral sense is a sense of the ought, not just a sense of the can. It's not just what you can do, but what you ought to do, what you have the right to do, what you have the responsibility to do, what you should do and should not do based on your moral commitment within a community. And we see this especially in religious dimensions, especially within the context of faith, especially in the context of the scriptures. Right? There is a moral community. There is moral membership and moral responsibility and moral rights. But in terms of AI systems, when we grant them moral agency, we're diluting human moral standards because AI systems, first of all, have no agency, and secondly, have no community. AI systems are interconnected with each other, but connections and relationships are two very different things. Two very different things. All relationships are connections, but not all connections are relationships. The reverse does not apply. When you have a relationship with someone in a moral community, you have a connection with them. But just because there is connection does not mean that there is relationship. On a side note, I believe that in our human society, in the human context, in the world in which we live, we have so many relational problems. Although we are so connected, we're more connected than we've ever been in terms of digital systems, in terms of all the platforms we're connected to, but we have more relational issues than we've ever had because connections and relations are two very different things. And so we've got to preserve that. AI systems don't have that qualitative sense of relational, communal engagement. So we need the correct ethical focus. The real ethical issue is AI a moral agent, but who remains morally responsible when AI acts? You probably hear in the news all the time about AI systems that have gone awry, AI systems that are not acting according to the original design plan. And people talk about these systems as if they have moral agency, as if they are independent and autonomous, as if they don't link back to the human agents and the agencies and the institutions and the companies and the corporations that have built them. Ultimately, it is humans and institutions. It is humans and institutions. In fact, we don't have a lot of time to get into it. AI, artificial intelligence itself, in a very real sense, does not exist. I've got a number of talks and writings on this. I don't have a lot of time to go into it. What it really is a concept. Artificial intelligence is a concept. It is a concept that we project onto systems. The systems don't intrinsically have any of the things that we project onto them. All of it is purely conceptual. And we materialize and we manifest these conceptions in the various systems that we develop and produce. That's all it is. I mean, we can really get deep into this, but maybe at another time. So, AI, think of AI or artificial intelligence as a concept. It was brought into being by definition. Think about it 1956, John McCarthy at Dartmouth College, as the fathers of AI converged in that conference that set the limits and the progression of AI research for the future. AI came into being by definition. The Turing test came into being by definition. Everything is definitional and functional. There is nothing intrinsic to the system. It is something that we project. And as I said earlier, we are agential moral beings, and we project agency and morality to everything that we create, to everything that we manufacture. That's just what we human beings do. I'm running out of time. Give me just a few minutes. I'm almost done. So, the ethical dimension and implications of AI. AI can be moral tools, okay? They don't have moral agency, but they can be moral tools. They can be used ethically or unethically by human moral agents. AI can be moral subjects of evaluation. Its behavior can be judged. We can say, that's the key thing. We, you and me, can say that an AI system has made a mistake. But the AI system internally does not know it from a moral framework or from an ethical standpoint. We say that it has made a mistake. We say that such and such a system should not be built. We say that such and such a system will wreak havoc in human society. But the AI system does not know that. They are moral subjects of evaluation. We judge their quote unquote behavior. And so AI is not a moral agent. We can call this functional morality without moral agency. Again, go back to the Turing test. What happened in the Turing test? We trick ourselves into thinking that AI was human like, or AI had agency, or that AI had intelligence just like human beings when they really did not have that. Even in morality, it's purely functional, right? Without moral agency, but we're tricking ourselves into thinking that they have moral agency when they don't possess it in an intrinsic sense. So the bottom line is this: AI can simulate ethical behavior, it cannot replicate it. Nothing that is core to our humanity is replicatable. AI only simulates. Even the most advanced of AI systems can only simulate. What is the difference between replication and simulation? The difference between reality and virtual reality. What is VR? VR is almost real, but it's not really real. That's what simulation is. Replication is an exact copy of me. Simulation is almost a copy of me, but is not quite there and will never get there. AI at best can simulate. AI can affect moral outcomes when it's used as a tool. So we need to be very careful because AI structures how we think about morality, but AI cannot bear any moral responsibility. A useful way to frame the ethical question is this. Instead of asking, is AI an agent? A better ethical question is, how does AI redistribute agency among human beings? And that is what we need to ask constantly. How is it redistributing agency among human beings? Who gains decision power? Who are the players in any given scenario? Who gets to gain? Who gets to make the decision? Think about it. Think about all the tools you're using. Just take stock of everything that you have, your phone, your laptop, all the apps on your phone, all the different tools that you have. Do you have any choice? Let me ask you this individually, personally, and institutionally. I'm sure there are many tools that are being used at WCC in terms of AI. And there are some tools that are really good. I don't have a lot of time to go into them. Let me just implant this concept in you. Whether it's an institution, an educational institution like WCC, or whether it's you personally and individually, do you have any decision in terms of what tools you utilize, in terms of what apps you utilize? Sometimes, in order to be involved in certain projects and certain programs, you have to download certain apps. Is there any kind of democracy in terms of you having any decision power? No. It is just a few people at the top, people like Sam Altman, people like Bill Gates, people like all the other people like Ray Kurzweil, all the other technocrats that are out there who have a particular vision for the future of humanity, who make all the major decisions. And then we are subordinate to them. We have to go along with the decisions. And so they redistribute agency among human beings, and some people gain privileged agency over us, and they get to make the decision, and they get to have the power. And so who gains? Who gains decision power? And if some people are privileged rather than others, who loses their voice? Who are the people who lose their voice in the process? Who are the people that become minorities? Who are the people that are left out? Who are the people that are overlooked? Who are the people that are set aside? These are very important questions we need to ask. And who bears the risk? Who bears the risk? And so, as we think of AI, as we think of the ethical dimension, as we think of the ethical implications, I hope that some of the questions we talked about, some of the concepts that we struggled with, this is more of an introduction. I hope that you will delve deeper into some of the things we talked about. I hope that you will look up the Chinese room argument. I hope you look up the Turing test. I hope you look up this concept of agency, this concept of moral agency or ethical agency. I hope you look at what it means to be unique as a human being. I hope you look more into what consciousness is, what semantic content or meaning oriented or purpose driven content is, as opposed to pure syntax. And I hope that these deliberations in your mind will help you to frame the issue in a meaningful way as you think about AI and ethics. Thank you so much for giving me a hearing.
If anyone has any questions, please raise your hand. I'll bring the mic.
Hello, sir. So I'm a psychology student, and I see that a lot of people use AI for mental health as well as decision making. Do you think we have to avoid AI in decision making and to support our mental health? Or do you think that we need to be more responsible and program it with diverse data sets in order to make it hold accountable and so that it could support people from different culture and it could be personalized? What's your take on that?
Can you repeat the last part? I didn't quite hear the last part.
Yeah, do you think that we should avoid it to use for decision making? Or do you think that we should program it with better data sets so that it could be more accountable in what it does? And it could also help people from different cultures and different mindsets.
Yes, that's a very good question. So, in terms of decision making, I think AI can be a useful tool. One of the examples that often comes up is in 1997. How many of you have heard of Gary Kasparov? Anyone here? No one. Okay. Gary Kasparov was the greatest of chess champions. He was a Russian man, unbeaten in chess. IBM developed an AI system called Deep Blue. This is 1997, 25 years ago, right? We didn't have the advancements that we have right now. Now, Gary Kasparov lost to Deep Blue, okay, because Deep Blue could calculate 100 million moves in 1 minute. 50 billion moves in the 3 minutes that is given to each chess player. There is no way that Gary Kasparov, although he was the greatest chess champion in the world, could beat that AI system. The processing system in terms of AI, it completely outdoes what human beings can do. So AI can be a useful tool in terms of processing data. So for instance, in terms of studies in psychology, right? When you look at different areas that people are suffering in, when you evaluate demographics in terms of, where some of the issues are, what sort of issues people are suffering, AI systems are very helpful because they can break it down into very minute things that you can look at. Otherwise, you might miss them in the whole mix of things that you're researching. So in terms of the quantitative process, AI systems become very, very important. They can do things over and above and beyond what we can do because of their computational capacity and the algorithmic complexity. But in terms of the qualitative aspect, in terms of the relational aspect, especially let's say in terms of psychology, let's say you're talking about counseling, right? AI systems can give perfect answers to any given questions. But all of us know that in counseling sessions, you're not looking for perfect answers, you're looking for existentially relevant answers, right? And that can only come from a human agent who has gone through the subjective state experience of being human. AI systems have never been human. They're just an accumulation of information of the various silos that we have. And so they just put together an ideal representation of what an answer might be. But ideality never helps because every situation is a particular situation, right? And so they might help to some extent, but they cannot help at the depths of our humanity. You need a human agent who has gone through the human experience and is going through the human experience in order to recalibrate your life from their perspective. The answer might not be ideal, but it's existentially relevant, and that's precisely why it's human. So these qualitative aspects should not be surrendered to AI systems. What we can do is utilize them as tool in terms of quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis is where AI really becomes a star, and we can utilize it very effectively. Now, we can utilize it in counseling, we can utilize it in the context of education, we can utilize it in the context of research, in the context of the church, in the context of religion, in society, in government, all these things. Always being aware that we don't outsource our humanity to these systems. Because when we give them the qualitative aspect as well, that's what we're doing. We're outsourcing our humanity to a non-human system. And ultimately, it'll create a lot of chaos and create a lot of problems and issues.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, that was an excellent question.
Hello, sir, can you hear me? Yes, sir. So, my question is, so I'm really interested in philosophy. So, out of all the, so far, what you consider how AI has evolved so far, do you think we've come close, like the closest we've come to having AI be a moral agent, or the closest we've come to having AI be accountable for its own actions? Because in the future, there might be a possibility, but so far, do you think we've like reached a certain milestone in terms of AI becoming accountable?
Excellent question. Excellent question. I wish I had a little bit more time because the philosophical aspect is very important, and you've hit the nail right on the mark. Because ultimately, the fundamental questions of life are philosophical in nature, right? Unless you figure out the philosophical or the metaphysical part, the ethical part does not make much sense. Ethics happens within a framework, and philosophy provides that framework. Now, I talked about it earlier in terms of my leg and in terms of my brain, right? Is my leg doing the walking or am I doing the walking utilizing my legs? Is my brain doing the thinking, or am I doing the thinking utilizing my brain? So that I is separate from the brain and the leg, right? The brain and the leg are the physical components. That I is the non-physical that causally interacts and utilizes the physical components. Technically, in philosophy, we call it supervenience, right? So this I is not reducible to the brain. I am not my brain. I am not my leg. But this I is behind the brain, and the leg utilizes the brain and the leg. In terms of AI systems, all you have is the physical component. It's like if all you had was just the brain and the leg. There is no I behind the brain and the leg. So when you look at a computer system, all the codes that go into a computer system, the input and the output, that's all there is. There is nothing beyond that to be conscious of what is coming in and what is going out. Are you with me? So there is no non-physical component. There is no what I call transcendent component. There is everything in the AI system that is reducible to the physical components. That's why I said, if you take apart an AI system or a computer, you've taken it apart completely. If you take me apart physically, you still haven't taken me apart completely. There is still something about me that subsists, the non-physical component, the real me, the real you. That is not resident in an AI. Now, here's the question, or here is the concern. Sam Altman, Ray Kurzweil, all these guys are saying, and even Elon Musk, and they're giving certain dates. They're saying within the next 5, 10, 15 years, AI will develop that non-physical component. I'm sure you've heard the term sentience, right? AI will have sentience and consciousness. This is what they call artificial general intelligence, AGI, which will then lead to ASI, artificial super intelligence. This is all in the future. And they are saying that somehow this I, this consciousness, this agency will emerge out of the AI systems when it becomes more complex. But they're really being confused because they're confusing complexity and agency. Are you with me? Non-physical components like consciousness, the soul, whatever it is you want to call it, cannot emerge from physical components. It's a category error. No matter how complex physical components get, they will still be only physical components. If there is something non-physical, it has to be there from the beginning. It cannot come in as an emergent property. And that is why, especially from a religious or Christian standpoint, we say that the soul is within us at the point of creation. It doesn't develop out of the body. It is already there. Right when you are born, at the point of inception, at the point of conception, the body and soul were conceived together. The soul doesn't emerge later on because physical components cannot give rise to non-physical things. You cannot get spirit from matter. You cannot get spirit from matter. Now, the other part is this. Can you program spirit or consciousness into a computer system? No. There is no code. And I repeat, there is no code for the human spirit. There is no code. What is a code? It's purely mathematical. What is AI system? It is applied math. And when you get into the mathematics, maybe some other time in the future, when you get into the mathematics, you can show the built-in limitations from a mathematical standpoint. For those of you who are mathematically inclined, look at two things, set theory and Gödel's incompleteness theorem, the second theorem in mathematics. And look at it in reference to AI system. When you go home, Google it, and you'll see some of the very important built-in limitations of AI systems. So from a computer science standpoint, from a mathematical standpoint, from a computational standpoint, from an algorithmic standpoint, AI systems will never become human-like. It's a principled impossibility. Thank you for that question.
Thank you so much, sir, for that amazing presentation. I would like to call upon Ramalakshmi ma'am for the thank you. Thank you, Mr. Fani Kumar, for your clear and engaging talk. You helped us to understand the ethical challenges of artificial intelligence in a simple and meaningful way. Some questions and statements like is AI a moral agent? Process is more important than product. Hope will make the students and everyone who is sitting here to think wisely while using AI. The examples like Chinese room argument, you gave clearly explained the working of AI and how much we can rely on, particularly when we take decisions. So your discussions are finally focused on fairness, responsibility, privacy, and importance of human judgment in AI decisions. We appreciate the way you connected technology with human values and shared a powerful perspective on future of AI. Thank you once again, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Should I log off now?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you all for taking part in this session. Now I have a few instructions and announcements to make before we head into our next proceedings. So I would like to request all of the gathering to please pull out your phones for a second and go to WhatsApp and check out the two agendas sent. You have your name lists on there. It's called oral and poster presentation. Okay, I want you to check your name and your venues and head to your respective venues before 9:30. Make sure to be there sharp at 9:30. Next instruction is that you'll be getting your snacks right outside. So grab your snack and then get going. Make sure that before 9:40, it's like, you're only allowed till 9:40, after which you will not be allowed. So make sure to be there at 9:30. It'll be easier for us to look at your presentations, get everything ready, arrange everyone. So I hope you understand. And next instruction is that those who have arrived late after 8, who did not get a chance to sign their attendance sheet, right now outside our first year core committee volunteers are right outside. I request you all to go and sign your sheets and then get moving. Failing which you will not be able to get your certificates. Those whose presentations are in this venue are requested to occupy the front rows when you get back from your break. I repeat, those whose presentations are in this venue are requested to occupy the front like first few rows after your break. Thank you. Benedict. Okay. So what happens here is we have things and they will come into party and they can post the
See, is there because we are not there is no internet over here. Okay. Okay. So we'll be moving her to another room as soon as the thing comes now. Okay. Speaker comes. Okay. Tell her to be audible. Yeah. I'll come and inform her when we are connecting her. If she has just gone for the break, she will be back. Can you just leave word with her, ma'am? That
The World Economic Forum's Global Risk Report 2025 has highlighted that in the next decade, the extreme weather events will emerge as the most devastating global threat, even surpassing wars and conflicts. Limits set by the World Health Organization. Now, next slide. Despite Thank you.
Just stay away from that.
Despite multiple state intervention, the policies are mostly reactive and short-lived, which threatens public safety, country stability, and even peace at the international level. So this necessitates a need for an advanced technological integration and also recognizing air pollution as more than just an environmental problem. Existing literature highlights that Delhi's air pollution remains severe, and it also recognizes that environmental degradation, such as air pollution, as non-traditional threats. And there were also technological results that highlights the AI tools, existing AI tools, which were helped for the quality checking and monitoring. However, the gap remains in the integration of AI in non-traditional security threat governance and frameworks. My research objective and my research question highlights to reframe Delhi's air pollution as a non-traditional security threat and to find out the gaps in the existing policies and finally proposing an AI-driven governance framework. My study primarily relies on the official data from the government of Delhi, reputable national news sources, and academic literatures on Delhi's air pollution and AI models. The key findings of my analysis is that Delhi's air pollution poses threat to the human security, causes economic insecurity and social vulnerability, and even affects the regional cooperations. The existing policies and the frameworks, that is the Graded Response Action Plan, which is currently in its fourth stage, and the National Clean Air Program, are so far proved insufficient and ineffective in handling such challenges. This, as a result, had led to me proposing an AI-driven, non-traditional security framework that helps in threat recognition, threat assessment, enables early warning system and identifying the sources of such pollutions, and finally supports in a policy framework and decision making within the governmental framework. In conclusion, in conclusion, I would suggest that integration of AI in addressing non-traditional security threats and also especially the asset management, combating such an air pollution crisis, which alone takes up 3 to 4% of nation's GDP, as highlighting the emergency and the urgency to such a problem. Thank you.
You feel AI will tell us beforehand that pollution is going to be there, or index will be bad, ECI index will be bad?
Yes, there are studies that had suggested that the AI had proved effective in identifying the accuracy of the air quality level index in Delhi. And there are also AI models were also helped in identifying the hotspots and mapping them so that the implementation of policies might help them in combating and tackling the effects of the air pollution crisis.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Next person is Joyce. Joyce Princey. Physics department.
It will open here, no? If it is opening, it is good, otherwise it will not open. It is opening.
Good morning to one and all present here. I am Joyce and this is Michelle. We are here to present our work about the IoT-based alignment monitoring system by artificial intelligence in medical and health sciences. Next. Okay. Primary objective is to design and develop a cellular monitoring system using the Arduino sensors, Bluetooth module, and intelligent program. And by this, we can improve the healthcare healthcare solutions. And next, our objective is to instantly produce the wireless communication between the medical staff and the system by which the Bluetooth will send an alert message to the medical staff so that they can get the alert message before getting into the danger and that's next. Okay, the purpose of our work. Okay, in modern healthcare system, the hydrated therapy is a very important treatment and it is a very important for all the patients who are taking in the saline. So, whenever the patient safety is important, we have to monitor the safety of the patient by sending an alert message to the medical staff. So the nurses, doctors, and everyone will be taking of the care of many patients. So they will not be able to concentrate on a particular patient. So there will be some limitations like the backflow of blood into the tube, and even it may create the infections. In order to avoid that, there is a need of a automated and the intelligent monitoring system by which we can come about out of this problem. Role of solution. Here, the artificial intelligence is used to program using the Arduino, is used to program the saline level monitoring, by which we will be predicting the medium amount of by which the threshold condition will be identified, and the identified abnormal conditions will be sent as an alert to the medical staff so that we can overcome the problem without getting into any medical issue.
So this is the circuit diagram of our developed saline level monitoring system. So it basically consists of Arduino Uno, which is where the C program is uploaded, and it works according to the C program uploaded. So an ultrasonic sensor is used to detect the distance between the sensor and the saline level, and the measured distance is then displayed in the LCD display, which is interfaced also with the Arduino. And Bluetooth module is interfaced with the Arduino to get the wireless communication with the doctors or the nurses or the caretakers' mobile phone through Bluetooth application. The working principle of our developed work is initially it continuously determines the distance between the saline level and the sensor, and it basically works on continuous sensing, automated decision making. So once after it measures the distance, it transfers the data to the Arduino, and it after transferring the data to the Arduino, it compares the measured value with the threshold value. So we have given in the program as the threshold value as a 15 centimeter. If it exceeds 15 centimeter,
Stand mark, okay? Stand mark.
Can I play the video?
we are having the
Stand mark. Others have to speak, isn't it? Next is Vaishali.
Good morning, Honorable President. Myself Vaishali. My topic is about artificial intelligence with archaeology, enhancing discovery, documentation, and interpretation. When we take about the usage of AI, we always associate with the science domain. But I'm going to talk about it also helps in the history domain. Archaeology is the study of human past to material remains. Why? Why AI is used in archaeology. In the field of archaeology, we have many data and sources which are difficult to manually analyze it. And also through excavations, if we excavate the unexplored difficult sites, there is a risk of damage. But through AI, in non-invasive methods, without excavation, we can discover the sites. Usually in the earlier times, sites were discovered accidentally or through various extensive excavations. Now using AI without excavation, we can identify many sites. For example, in Mexico, AI assisted radar surveys were used to excavate sites without using of the manual path. AI is also used in 3D reconstruction. The recent excavation in Chile is a very good example where through facial reconstruction, the humans were these were the humans who lived 2,500 years ago. They have found two skulls in Hillary. With that, they have reconstructed the faces. AI is also used in epigraphy and linguistic research. Epigraphy is refers to the study of inscriptions. The ancient scripts and the languages are inputted into the AI software where it can, through sequence study and study of the patterns, it can identify and translate the languages. When we talk about archaeology, it does not restrict to land surface. It also comes under the underwater. AI can also generate 3D models of underwater landscapes. There are various examples like Black Sea Mediterranean project. This was a research project in which they discovered over 60 ancient shipwrecks with the use of the sonar images. AI is also used for predictive modeling. As we saw, not only the site detection is used in AI, it also predict where can the sites be. At last, it's very important for any archaeologist to document the source artifacts. The documentation involves a systematic digital recording of archaeological sites, monuments, and artifacts. At last, I will conclude by saying that AI bridges the technology and history and allowing archaeologists to study the past with care. Thank you.
Next is Chandra Pranamika. Chandra Pranamika, are you here? Next is Charulata Padmini. Next is Avanti. You can be ready. Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shavita and this is Padmini. Our review work is on the title Interpretable Physics Informed Neural Network for Reliable Scientific Discovery. Done under the guidance of Dr. Vinita Devi. We are from the Department of Physics. So, our project aims to conduct comprehensive review of interpretable and uncertainty physics for neural network to assess their role, challenges, and progress towards trustworthy scientific achievement. They combine data-driven discovery with governing physical laws. So classical films are just also act as black boxes, and even though they provide accurate predictions, they do not give the information on how and why they occur.
Before we move on to this, let's see how the normal neural network works. The normal neural networks works really based on the data and not on physical laws. That's where pins comes into role. They work on the approximation and not on reasoning. So pins use embedded systems on partial differential equations and ordinary differential equations that due to the gravity laws. That plays a valuable role in predicting the heat diffusions and elasticity model, where in reality it is very expensive to collect the data.
So the mechanics of classical physics works with two objectives: data-driven loss and physics-driven loss. It is mathematically expressed as total loss is equal to data loss and lambda times physics loss. This lambda is the balancing coefficient which balances out both the data and the physical loss. So it ensures physical consistency through residual minimization.
So why interpretable things are used? We know classical equations obey already the classical things obey the equations. So if we do not know which physical phenomena is used to predict the answer, so that's why the black box problem comes in. The black box actually predicts the answer accurately, but we do not know which physical formula predicts the equations. So that's where we use predictions to be accurate.
Interpretable things makes a paradigm shift from just prediction accuracy to very explanatory work. So it mainly consists on three goals. It explains physics interpretable relationships, it explains physical consistency, and it also provides data consistency. And this bridges the gap between machine learning and human reasoning.
So we use four techniques to use some interpretable physics in neural networks. But the first one is physics categorizations. We add explicit physics formulas into the target laws, which ensures the model is strong in the domain knowledge. And secondly, we use symbolic representations, where the symbolic regression is used to convert the learned pattern to equation form, which humans can understand. The fourth is sensitivity analysis. The sensitivity analysis, we quantify how sensitive the prediction is to each model, each input. So the fourth is patient population. Models are certain, that's why the accuracy is wrong. That's why we use patient formulation, where it uses uncertainty to predict probability. It makes the inputs probable so that the prediction is not certain. It makes it uncertain. So the prediction reflects on its determinism.
So interpretable physics have multiple enhancements over classical physics. They have model transparency, uncertainty handling, and
Time up, time up. I have only one question. Go to the application part. Your second or third slide. Yeah, no, that slide. It says material behavior. So you can find out what type of film or what type of a nano structure it has formed, something like that. Did I understand it correct?
We actually used it in normal fluid mechanics and solid state.
So even if fluid behavior you will come to know. Is it like that?
So basically,
Physics informed neural networks does the actual the process. I mean, the basic objective of our work is that we know when we given input, the output we have an output. We have multiple outputs at times, and we don't know which is reliable. But the center part of it is hidden, and that is called.
All that I know. When you say applications in material behavior, what will you come to know? Application in material behavior means what you will come to know?
Elasticity modeling. We provide many data sets, like many constraints of physical laws.
Apart from that, elasticity, how furthermore it will be stress, strain and all that details you will
Yeah,
give?
yeah. If we provide correct physical constraints to the laws, we may obtain the correct,
Using IDAI, you can find
yeah.
out. Okay.
Which is more fair.
Avanti, are you ready? Next is Jonah. Jonah, Shiny, Sarah, that group.
How did you add?
But it is fine and you're fine.
This is how it is reached us. Would you like to proceed or you want to?
Why is it not there? Allowed to attach our laptop.
No, you will not be permitted to. Send it as a PDF to us.
So can we get it later, sir?
Yes.
Let me have the next.
Now present here. I am J.S. Bharti from Psychology Department, second year, and this is Sara and my co-presenter from Psychology Department, second year. We are pleased to present our study titled The Relationship Among Digital Amnesia, Metacognition, and Academic Performance in Emerging Adulthood. So, in today's era, reliance on smartphones and AI have become inevitable, and thus we are examining the relationship between digital amnesia, metacognition, and academic performance. So, what is digital amnesia? Digital amnesia is the tendency for you to forget information because you immensely depend on AI and other technological platforms for the media to remember the information for you. And metacognition? Metacognition is the awareness about your own mental processes and self-thinking, and how it all these variables eventually affect our academic performances. The need for the study arose because of the limited research made on these three variables together, especially in non-Western contexts. And many researchers studied about these three variables in isolation, giving us a clear research gap in understanding the influence of digital reliance on metacognition and academic performance. Next slide, please. So our sample size is 100 and our population is emerging adulthood, and the age range for that is 18 to 29. And we use ex post facto correlational research design for our study. The tools, we also use standardized tools such as digital amnesia scale, adolescent form, metacognition self-assessment scale, and academic performance scale. We also came up with a set of null hypotheses that says that are as follows. First, there would be no significant relationship between digital amnesia and metacognition. Second, there would be no significant relationship between digital amnesia and academic performance. Third, there would be no significant relationship between metacognition and academic performance. In addition, we also hypothesize that there would be no significant gender differences among all the three variables. Now, my co-presenter Sarah will be explaining the research and the rest of the topics. Thank you. Next slide, please. So the results we put as a table up here. We use Peirce's correlation formula to find it, and first the relationship between digital amnesia and metacognition, and also the relationship between digital amnesia and academic performance was found to be non-significant. And next slide, please. So next we found the relationship between academic performance and metacognition, and that was found to be significant. So we also wanted to find the gender difference in three variables, and we found that there was no significant relationship between all three. And we used independent sample t-test to find this. Next slide, please. So the findings suggest that metacognitive skills are more crucial to academic performance, and digital amnesia plays a role in memory recall, but not directly in academic performance. Next slide, please. So the limitations of our study. So first, we found that, first it focused only on emerging adulthood. That was our age population. And we can't generalize this to other age populations. And also we can't generalize this to other cultures because we focus on only one specific culture. And second, since the study is correlational, we cannot specify the cause and effect of the relationship between the variables. Next, the study did not differentiate between types of digital usage like recreational usage and educational usage. And it also adopted self-assessment type scales, which means that the students will assess themselves.
Was it your project work?
Research paper.
Research paper?
Yes.
Which year are you in?
Second year.
Second year. Good. Is Avantika ready?
Which you can remember how much.
Good morning,
Second.
good morning, ma'am. The research topic is about
Afi,
comparative consumer perception.
excuse me, turn.
Good morning, ma'am. I'm Nafida Fatima and this is Avantika. Our research paper is about comparative consumer perception of AI generated advertisements and human created advertisements among college students.
As the title suggests, our study compares how college students perceive AI ads in contrast to human-created ads. The reason why we chose this topic is because AI's use in marketing has been increasing steadily, but there's still limited clarity on how young consumers actually respond to AI-driven advertising, especially in terms of creativity, trust, and emotional appeal. AI has developed significantly from its early stages. It has undergone rapid evolution. AI has grown from being a simple rule-based system to an advanced deep learning tool that can create content and personalize it to match individual consumer preferences. However, even though AI makes marketing more efficient, it raises questions like, do consumers find AI ads as trustworthy, authentic, and memorable as human ads? This gap forms the base of our study.
The objectives of the study are to understand consumer behavior towards AI-generated ads and human-created advertisements. It studies which type of advertisement gets more attention and remembered better. This objective checks how trust and data safety affect customer satisfaction. The study finds out whether consumers feel AI makes shopping more value for money. It examines whether AI ads and traditional ads encourage people to buy products. The scope of the study, it focuses on students' views on preference, attention and memory, trust and data safety, feelings and satisfaction, loyalty and repeat purchase, value for the money. Only college students are included in the study. Students are chosen because they use digital media a lot and influence AI ads. As for the same brand are used for fair comparison, the study looks only at opinions and buying behavior. It does not study how AI ads are technically created. Next slide, please. For methodology, we use survey method through a Google form. We collected about 150 responses. The questionnaire was structured using multiple choice questions, Likert scale, and rating scale questions. Respondents watched two ads from the same brand. Ad one was human created and ad two was AI generated and answered questions based on what they observed during the video. The collected data was analyzed using percentage analysis, mean score analysis, and bar charts. Next slide. Review of literature. Gurudev et al. 2023 study how brand image affects buying decisions. Survey done with 251 people in Azerbaijan, bridging Western Asia and Eastern Europe, found that young consumers prefer branded products due to social status and emotional connection. Summer 2008 study the effect of advertising through different media. Survey conducted among 29 Indian students found that TV, radio, print, and internet influenced buying behavior. Did not study or trust creation archive. Reviewed 76 research studies on advertising, focused on consumer psychology. Students studied emotions, attention, and perception. Did not compare AI ads and human ads. A previous study showed that advertising and brand perception influence consumer behavior, but there is limited research comparing AI generated and human created ads.
So, you could have given us, show the, both of the human created and AI created video, no? Instead of so much.
Due to time constraints,
Instead of reading of review of literature, you could have done. All would have appreciated. Because even now I am scared of what you want to tell. Now my no time, I have so many more to finish. Okay? You should know what you should present. This is not required. Okay?
okay, ma'am.
Next time don't do it.
Okay,
It's a learning experience.
thank you, ma'am.
All the best. Uttamina?
Generated. Sit down, sit down.